Welcome to the Weather Guru's 2 p.m. update of Hurricane Beryl. Hurricane Beryl has weakened to a Category 4 storm, now with winds at 150 miles an hour. Now it hasn't undergone another eyewall replacement cycle just yet, but it is encountering and feeling the effects of some southwesterly wind shear that's affecting it on the western flank of this hurricane. Now, still a very powerful and dangerous hurricane. Currently, the eye is directly below the Dominican Republic here, as you can see in the latest frame. And it is moving very fast. It's still booking at a clip of west to 22 miles an hour, west-northwest at 22 miles an hour. And the pressure has come up to 943 millibars as of the 2 p.m. update. Now, you know we get the next update from the National Hurricane Center at 5 p.m. Eastern time, so you want to stay tuned for that. But I'm going over the 2 p.m. update. I want to show you some changes in the track, changes in the forecast here. Now, Jamaica, it does look like this is going to pass directly over or just offshore, maybe by less than 40 miles or 50 miles offshore, the directly core of this hurricane right now. And so Jamaica, all interests in Jamaica should complete preparations by tonight, by 10 p.m. or so tonight, because these winds are quickly going to be elevated, ramping up starting about from 9 a.m. Wednesday morning, lasting all the way through the day, through dusk, 8 p.m., and still be over on the western tip of Jamaica. So those in eastern Jamaica, more of the eastern side of Jamaica, you want to prepare for, like I said, strong winds, hurricane force winds, flooding, storm surge flooding. Those in central Jamaica toward the Blue Mountains and westward, out toward Negril, Montego Bay, and those inland on that side, you want to prepare for also strong winds, hurricane force winds. You want to prepare for the potential for landslides, mudslides, and also the potential for power outages. That's going to be almost a certainty for much of Jamaica. So this is very different. The way this storm is approaching from the east-southeast like this, coming across like that, means that you're going to be in the northeast quadrant of the storm, which is the more powerful side of the storm, the right front quadrant, for a little while longer. So Wednesday is going to be a long day. Cayman Islands, same for you on Big Cayman there in Georgetown. You want to prepare for the exact same effects that Jamaica is going to be preparing for. Now, it'll be hit or miss whether or not the eye passes through you or passes just to the west or southwest of you. That's too close to call at this time because these storms do wobble. This doesn't form a straight line. The eye does tend to wobble. So, but hurricane warnings in effect. That's new for Cayman Islands, Little Cayman and Big Cayman, as well as Jamaica. That is our primary concern. Now, over in Haiti and Dominican Republic here, we are going to see some coastal rise and some minor flooding that could occur as the system passes by. Now, you'll notice something here too. I want to show you something here. You notice the eye is beginning to fill in now with some of that central dense overcast. It may be undergoing an eye wall replacement cycle sometime before this evening is over. And so the Hurricane Center probably would note that in their next advisory at 5 p.m. As you can see, the eye is filled in now. I'm going to show you the frame from the beginning here. And you can see it was a circle donut eye. And you can notice how it fills in right there at the last frame there. It starts to fill in. And it was still daylight as far as I know out there in the Caribbean. So this eye is filling in. It's starting to reorganize itself. It's starting to feel the effects of southwesterly shear here. Heavy shear that we've been talking about for the last 2 days. And I want to show you something interesting here too as well. The wind field field is expanded of tropical storm force winds here to 125 miles out from the center. Hurricane force winds still at 40 miles from the center. I'm just going to check that to make sure I'm saying the correct things here. Yes, it is. It's still 40 miles. Tropical storm force winds extend out 175 miles from the center. So the tropical storm force winds did grow in size here as of the latest advisory here, up to 175 miles in coverage. And also, I want to show you this effect too. You notice how the wind field on this side is more broader. So some of the cloud tops are being sheared off here. You can see that it's feeling the effects of the shear, but it's fighting it pretty well because sometimes major hurricanes create an environment of their own, a little pocket of their own where they can kind of fight off this wind shear, and remain a major hurricane, but weaken slowly. So it's not like one of these things where you get a dramatic combination of wind shear and dry air and it drops this to a Cat 1 overnight. Since this was a major Category 5 hurricane and now it's just now becoming a 4, and you can expect a gradual decrease in the winds, but still when it gets to Jamaica, it very well could be still a a Cat 3 with winds at 120 to 130 miles an hour, which is predicted here in this path. It's still with an M. M stands for major, so it's still going to be a Cat 3 or above as it passes by or over Jamaica. It may be a direct hit, but it may, if it passes to the south, it's still going to bring those hurricane force winds as they only extend out 40 miles from the center of the coast. So Kingston, those parishes to the east, of course, St. Anne's, St. Catherine's, St. Andrews, those parishes to the east are going to be hit the hardest because they get in the storm surge combination. Not that much, about 1 to 4 feet. But the problem is, like I said, you're going to get those rains and heavy mudslides, and that's going to affect everybody. Heavy rains could be up to 6 inches of rain. It's going to be quick moving. The saving grace with this storm is the blessing is that it's a quick mover. So all day Wednesday, Jamaica, you're going to be dealing with this storm, and the blessing is by Thursday it'll be past you, and Cayman to take a quick blow, glancing blow, and by Thursday night everybody's free from it, at least in the central Caribbean, and then they'll have to worry about what happens in the Yucatan and out and toward the Bay and Campeche. That's also a big question mark too, because so far this ridge of high pressure that's above here in Florida, Georgia, centered over the central U.S. is starting to break down, and so that means that typically when we have a stronger storm, it would go north like that. But since we have a weaker storm, at least forecast to be a weaker storm, but so far this storm has defied our expectations in terms of strength, in terms of how long it's lasting, intensity, in terms of the pressure, everything is defied. So I wouldn't be surprised if it turns even further north. So those have interest in Houston, Lake Charles, I would keep a close eye on the storm Thursday night to see how far it turns northwest, because this high up here is obviously eroding, it's weakening. And so it could have a further turn up towards Lake Charles, Houston, Beaumont, that area. I'll be very concerned. I'll start watching the storm after Thursday morning, rather, because that's when the turn will be more pronounced. If it's going to continue northwest toward the tip of Cuba, or is it going to continue more of a west due north of west, toward the Yucatan Peninsula. So I just want to give you that heads up, because so far the storm is moving very fast, and it is forecast to continue on this path as a likewise. Now, also, I want to show you the Atlantic Basin wide here. The one behind Beryl is very weak. There's not much convection. Only a 20% chance given by the National Hurricane Center. Totally agree with that. We got Saharan dust out here. We also have this storm right here, this invest, that we were looking at, that people will say going to be the next D-name storm, which was Debbie. Doesn't look like much. It can pulse up and regenerate, maybe when it gets closer to the islands. But with the upwelling, from Beryl, even though it's warm temperatures, ocean temperatures, and just hostile environment out here so far, it just doesn't have much to work with. Generally, you like to see convection, heavy convection out here all around in all 4 quadrants. We just don't have that here with this coming invest system, and so I'm not so sure if I'm willing to give it above a 20 or 30% chance either. I mean, it just doesn't look like much. But who's to say it could regenerate again once it gets closer to Barbados and the islands? This is still way off, like 700 miles away from Barbados, this little feature here. Elsewhere in the North Atlantic towards Bermuda, everything is clear. Bahamas clear. Out toward the eastern Pacific, we have a few little convection bands here, but nothing really prominent here that's taking shape. So that's great news for those of you taking vacations out toward Cabo and out toward the western side of Mexico, and also Hawaii. They look good as well. So I just want to give you that broad spectrum. But back to Beryl. This is the main story. Now you can see a lot of convection continuing here to impact Dominican Republic from the east side, La Romana, DK, all the way over to Punta Cana. And also Puerto Rico's been taking a lot of these outer rain bands, the outer feeder bands of Beryl. Now they have been gusting. Puerto Rico has been gusting, but not quite the tropical storm force, and so there's no tropical storm warnings or watches for Puerto Rico or Virgin Islands. But they have been taking some of the feeder bands earlier today, along with Montserrat and some of the islands and the lower chains there now. But Dominican Republic and Haiti, you're going to be feeling the tropical storm effects from this. Probably, according to the chart here, you're going to be feeling the tropical storm effects from this probably sometime late Wednesday night. So after midnight, that's when the storm will be passing by you, and some of that tropical storm force gusts and breezes could touch both of you guys coast here, and so be prepared for that, as well as some minor coastal flooding once again in Dominican Republic and Haiti, Hispaniola. Now as it moves past you, Jamaica, like I said, the main impacts are going to be winds gusting in excess of 120 miles an hour. It's still going to be a major hurricane. Some could occasionally gust higher than that, but sustained winds are going to be anywhere from 80 to 100 miles an hour, with gusts occasionally gusting over 120. Once again, seas are going to be rough, obviously 20-foot seas or more, but boating interests should be moored or tied down. We're also going to be having some flooding concerns and mudslide concerns inland across the Blue Mountains and across western Jamaica as well. So, southeastern Jamaica. So on the east and south coast of Jamaica, there could be some flooding, storm surge flooding as well as regular flooding just from the rain. But it's a quick mover. That's a blessing in disguise. So you shouldn't get no more than maybe 4 to 8 inches total, unless you're in the mountains. You may get 10 inches because of the orographic lifting. That is the squeezing out of rain as it goes up elevation, squeezes out some extra moisture. So 10 inches max up in the mountains, high points of Blue Mountains, and then everybody else, deal with the 4 to 8 inches as well as that. And like I said, the timing once again for Jamaica, the timing will be when you wake up Wednesday, 8 a.m. Wednesday, the position of the center is here. So you'll already be feeling into the tropical storm conditions here by 8 a.m. Wednesday. You'll be in the tropical storm winds because it'll be less than 200 miles, 220, something like that. The center, according to this graphic, should be about 200, maybe less than that, 220 miles away from you, pointing to the oriented to the southeast. And then it will come on in very fast, very rapidly. The conditions will go downhill in the morning, and then those hurricane force winds will be right up on you. Probably the worst of it will be sometime between lunchtime, that noon hour, to about 6 p.m. That's going to be the worst of it for most of Jamaica. The western side of the island will get more of it. We'll get that too, but they'll get their worst coming up a little bit later, say between 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. as the center passes through the western zones, and then it gets ready to exit on out somewhere here. Now remember, this center could be anywhere in this cone, to the right or to the left. Right now I'm leaning more toward the right side when it comes off the coast of Jamaica. Grades. It's kind of like what Hurricane Maria did with Puerto Rico. It came in on one side and it exited through the other. This is going to be a similar pattern. Hurricane Maria came in Puerto Rico on the right side towards Cayman or something like that on the southern coast, and then it exited out towards the west side there, or Mayagüez, toward Aguadilla, toward that side, and exited out like that. So that's what we're kind of expecting with Jamaica, except it comes in somewhere east of Kingston. The eye wall, the northeastern eye wall, just kind of touches and grazes it, and then it makes a sort of a half landfall. You have a chance where half of the northeastern eye wall is on Jamaica, and the other part is out to sea, something like that. That's what I'm expecting with this system, and then it kind of just bounces along, and then it exits out of you guys. It'll be done by for Jamaica about, like I said, at night. All this will be winding down by 11 p.m., 12 p.m., midnight. They'll be winding out, and conditions will improve, but you'll have a strong breeze still. Tropical storm conditions still will linger on, of course, through the night until Thursday morning. It'll all be said and done for Jamaica, and possibly for the Cayman Islands. They'll be dealing with this Thursday. Cayman Islands, same thing. You'll get right now you'll get tropical storm force winds, it looks like, but you'll be on that northeastern side too, possibly the worst side. So right now I'm forecasting winds for Cayman between 60 and 70 miles an hour sustained, with gusts to around 85 or 90 miles an hour. But the question is, this H is denoting is no longer a major hurricane, so it could be a category 1 by the time. It could be weakened all the way down to a category 1 with winds around 96 to 100 miles an hour sustained, and then the gusts higher. So Cayman, you might be dealing with just tropical storm effects basically with this system, but they can't rule that out because it's still probably it's going to be a hurricane at this point at 8 a.m. Thursday, and then we'll continue on to Mexico, and we'll see what evolves with this later on Thursday. Thursday's the turning point. That's when the models, Wednesday night's a turning point. The models will have a better grip on whether or not this high is weakening tremendously. If it's weakened tremendously, then look, this thing is going north into the Gulf, towards more northwest into the Gulf, toward Lake Charles and Houston, Texas, and they got to worry about it, and those places like that. And then, so that's what we're looking at in terms of that, ladies and gentlemen. And also, I wanted to show you the information here. They're all showing the same information here, basically. But what the thing is that if it goes through another eye wall replacement cycle again, which I think it is in the next few hours, so about a 5 p.m. advisory, they're probably going to talk about that. You can see the eye collapse and it's trying to reform. And if the SEER is greater, then the pressure is going to come up dramatically in the next couple of hours here, possibly even breaking 950 millibars. The pressure is going to come up and the winds are going to come down. So that means that the next advisory at 5 p.m., this is what we should see. We should see this here drop down to 140. 140 miles an hour sustained, maybe lower than that. I'm not sure how they're going to play it, but with the movement as well, it's going to continue moving fast. That's what you should see, but the wind should definitely come down because the pressure is coming down here dramatically, and the pressure is coming up. The pressure is coming up. You should see the pressure come up, and it's going to come down to, they have it at 140 in 24 hours. So it should come down to 140 conservatively, possibly lower than that, but conservatively they're pegged it at 140 on the next advisory. You should see the winds come down down and the pressure come up on the next advisory. The watches and warnings remain the same. Like I said, it's Jamaica, Cayman, and Little Cayman and Cayman Brac. And the hurricane watches are in effect. They've upgraded the hurricane watch for Haiti and its border with Dominican Republic. And then they have the same tropical storm warnings, of course, for the border of Dominican Republic and Haiti. So we have the same, pretty much the same data here. Nothing has changed, like I said. But the thing is that the weakening is happening right now and through the night. And then we're just going to see two things we're going to see at 5 p.m. We're going to see that, what I just told you, the winds come down, the pressure coming up. The winds come up and the pressure coming up. And we're also going to see if this wind field expands even further because it's being sheared. It's being sheared southwesterly. So I want to see if the tropical storm force winds extend even further out now to 200 miles or 220 miles out. I'm not sure if the hurricane force winds have been constantly at 40 miles for the last couple of advisories. So I think that's pretty much set in stone as the hurricane reforms. But if it goes through an ERC, the eye-wall replacement cycle, it may sometimes with weaker storms you get these big donut eyes that are 40 nautical miles or 60 nautical miles across. So I'm very interested to see how this storm reorganizes now that it's peaked out, it's maxed out at 165 miles an hour, and now it's on its way, down on the downward slope. This reminds me a lot of Hurricane Ian. Remember, Ian went through an eye wall replacement cycle in the Central Caribbean, and it was post up, and then it post down as it crossed all this land interaction up here. And so it's possible the storm could post up. It can post down, and then down to a 3 or possibly even a 2 as it passes by Jamaican and Cayman Islands, and then from there turn northwest, get into the Gulf, and then re-strengthen again and come in as a Cat 4 somewhere along the U.S. coast. And that's what people are watching now. There's more talk of a turn, and I think I've been saying that. I've been telling you guys that from the beginning, that this thing is going to turn more and more northwest, and that possibly puts in the Gulf Coast up here in the play and not way down here. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see. After Wednesday, Jamaica's the turning point. After it passes Jamaica, that's when the models will have a better handle on it. And hurricanes are just like water and just like other. They like to follow the path of least resistance. If the high pressure is weakening up here, then guess what? There's an opening, there's a squeeze play for this thing to come north into the Gulf of Mexico, and of course subsequently get stronger and re-strengthen into a major hurricane. So that's not out of the question, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, this is just the pocket of wind shear. The pocket of wind shear is right here in front of it. Between the passage between Haiti, about 400 miles southwest of Haiti, and then that pocket is running into right now. It's running into the pocket, and that's why it's eroding the western side here. You can see the convection is eroding here on the western side of this storm, and that's because of the wind shear in the upper levels, in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere. The storm is not allowed to be vertically stacked as much as it was when it ran into Grenada and the Grenadines, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and also the island of Curacao when it made landfall. You see the eyes collapsing on itself. You see how the clouds are clouding in, and it's getting sort of a double eye. You see that in there? I'm going to put it in motion here again. You see how it was a donut in the beginning, right? And now it's moving at west-northwest at 22 miles an hour. You see heavy convective bands, cold cloud tops indicated by that white and purple there. On the right-hand side, on that northeast quadrant, that's the quadrant that we're concerned about, because that's going to be it's going to be coming into Jamaica later on Wednesday morning, early Wednesday morning by 8 a.m. and through all of the day. So that's why we're concerned, because it's that side. Now, the western and southern side of this storm is not as strong, as you can see here in that last frame. The eye collapses a little bit here, and so it may be going through an eye wall replacement cycle, or it just may be going through a restructuring, dealing with both this wind shear that's coming in the southwest, blowing off the tops of this thing over toward Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, and they're dealing with those showers right now. The outer feeder bands once again are hitting La Romana, DK. It's hitting places like Punta Cana out there on the eastern Dominican Republic, and also on the western side, Ponce, Puerto Rico, Mayaguez, Aguadilla. You guys are getting heavy rain, but nothing, no tropical storm force winds or anything like that. I'm just saying you guys are getting rain that may be beneficial right now, because there's no tropical storm force winds sustained associated with this. It's just typical, thunderstorms that are associated with the outer feeder bands of Beryl. But the storm is reorganizing right now as we speak. It is weakening. The cloud tops are warming, very warm on the west side here, indicated by this yellow and green, not the deep reds that you see in the southern and northeastern quadrants of this system. So because of that, that's great news. Beryl should continue to weaken. I'm not sure if it's going to get down to a Cat 3 by 5 p.m. Probably not, but the Hurricane Center is looking at dropping it probably to 140 miles an hour in the next advisory, or somewhere between there, because the pressure has came up to 900 and 940 above 943. Yep. So I expect continuing weakening. The pressure may even hit 950, go up to 950. That means the higher the pressure goes up, the less winds, the winds come down. So that's good news. And then, like I said, the eye wall replacement cycle should be coming sometime tonight between the 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. advisory by the Hurricane Center. It should be done as reorganization as it makes its way by Jamaica on that 8 a.m. Wednesday advisory. So that's what we have going on here, and it may be weaker than that. So I do expect a weaker storm. Possibly, it get down to 110, 115, somewhere around there when it gets to Jamaica. 120 would be your best bet. So I expect the 120 mile an hour storm. That's a category 3. It's still a major hurricane, but it's going to be weaker as it gets to Jamaica, obviously, because of this wind shear that's affecting it now. And it's turning the winds lopsided up here. It's already blowing off the tops and turning this thing lopsided. It looks ragged down here. Inflow was affected also on the southwestern side and also on the southern side. Inflow is being affected here. As you can see, it's cut off here. So that wind shear is getting into it, but it's fighting it very hard because this major hurricane creates its own environment. When it gets to be mature, when winds get to be as high as 175, 165, 160, it takes time for it to wind down, guys. It's not something that, it comes to that. So that's the point that I want to make. But the nautical eye, you can see the eye is starting to warm here. You see that green and that yellow. That means the eye is warming. It's starting to condense. It's going through a replacement cycle. This will take a couple of hours, maybe about 6-7 hours. It'll be done, and what's left of it will be heading toward Jamaica as a major hurricane, and it'll probably be a bigger eye. I think this is going to consolidate itself now, and it'll probably be a bigger eye here, and that's somewhat good news. You want that, not a small eye like that. As you can see, I put it in the motion. So the eye is perfectly donut. Now it's collapsed on itself a little bit here. It's going through a change right now. And that'll last for the next couple of hours, and that's what we have going on here. So once again, interest in Jamaica. You want to make your final preparations done before after sunset tonight, because this thing is moving very fast, and it'll cover the ground here very fastly, very quickly. And so by 8 a.m., the worst of it from Jamaica will be for Jamaica. Just to iterate for those coming in, if you're in St. Anne's, St. Catharines, St. Andrews, Kingston, Jamaica, if you're in the southern and eastern parts of Jamaica, you're going to have to deal with storm surge, not heavy, but you're going to have to deal with storm surge at least 3 to 5 feet, and possibly you're going to have to deal with hurricane force winds for a longer time, and more faster winds for a longer time, those greater than 120 miles an hour sustained, because you're in that northeastern quadrant. If Beryl stays to the south, which many people have already said it's going to do, and which we think it's going to do too, at least in this advisory. So you can see it's going to be pretty much almost a direct hit into Jamaica. And so that's what we're very concerned. And then Cayman Islands as well. We don't want to forget about you in Georgetown, Cayman Islands, and Little Cayman. You're going to be in that northeastern quadrant too as it passes to the south of you. So kind of like a double whammy. The good news is for both islands is this is moving very fast. It's not going to be a slow move and dump heavy rain, copious amounts of rain, or it's not going to be something that's going to be, prolonging the winds forever and ever. This is a one and done event. This is a one-time event. So by the worst of it in Jamaica, once again, will be about lunchtime, because it'll be right on top of you. Lunchtime through about 8 p.m. and then by midnight conditions will be improving, but still tropical storm force winds linger because the winds extend out 175 miles out from the center. Tropical storm winds, that is, from 39 miles to 70 miles. So you experience that, and by Thursday Jamaica will be all clear. It'll just be overcast. Conditions will be improving. Cayman, you'll be up for that as it passes by you. But Cayman is it's definitely a small place. It's hard to hit directly onto Cayman Island. But just passing close enough by it like this, they'll experience hurricane force gusts anywhere from 80 to 110 miles an hour. Sustained winds will probably be around 60, 65, 70. And that'll be it for Cayman. It'll be pushed by Cayman so fast that the conditions will be improving in Cayman by 2 p.m. Thursday. Conditions should be improving in Cayman. And they'll be done with it. And then from there, the question is, like I said, Thursday night, does it turn further up northwest here than what they have on this graph? I think it will. They're going to have to make some changes on this. I don't think it's going to hit southern Mexico or southern Texas. It's going to be further up north here, somewhere between Lake Charles and Beaumont, and over here toward the Alabama-Florida border, because this high pressure is weakening. It's moving east probably by that time, and then we're going to have a Gulf Coast storm somewhere up here, and likely a stronger storm, possibly a major hurricane, Category 3 again, as it re-strengthens after it passes Jamaica and the Caymans and gets through the Florida Straits and the pass here between Cuba and Yucatan. But that's in the future. I don't want to get ahead of myself, and I don't want to make predictions, but I'm just saying that the trend is starting to look more northwest here up in the Gulf, and not over toward the Texas-Mexico border. So, and that's because the high pressure is weakening, the ridge between the high pressure is weakening. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to give the update. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel. We're going to give you the latest updates on Beryl and the other storms in the area too as well. Our thoughts and prayers are still with Grenada and the Curacao Islands, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Barbados fared well. Trinidad and Tobago fared well. Martinique and Anguilla, all those islands are fine. Puerto Rico's fared well so far. They just had a bunch of scattered showers from the outer bands, and Eastern Dominican Republic and Haiti should be okay, but so with the exception of some minor coastal flooding, and they will get tropical storm winds as it passed by tonight, and that's why the Hurricane Center has issued those warnings for the area there. So be safe, be careful, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll talk to you very soon on the next update. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Take care.